This is an NBC 10 News podcast. Thank you for turning to 10. From NBC 10 News, welcome to a special 10 News conference debate, the Democratic race for mayor of Providence. Here's moderator Gene Valicenti.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into our Democrat primary debate for mayor of Providence. The incumbent Mayor Brett Smiley versus the state representative David Morales, who wants to take his place. We have determined who goes first and last with a 1-minute closing statement. I may occasionally challenge the candidates, so it's largely up to them to check each other, and that means a vigorous back and forth. It's a debate, not an interview. And we're timing it in the back to allow for as close as we can for equal time, though it's largely up to the candidates to be mindful if they're falling behind. And we'll reel them in if they start to filibuster. We don't want that. All right, our time is tight. Straight half hour. Let's get right to it. First question is for State Representative David Morales. Mayor, fighting crime. Can you do a better job than Mayor Smiley? Because he says crime is down 35%, violent crime. He's also got a record on ATVs and other things. Can you do better?
So while Providence is following the national trends around seeing reduced crime, which started under Mayor Angel Tavares, if you speak with our neighbors, especially around commercial corridors like Broad Street, Chalkstone Avenue, or Cranston Street, where I was just a few days ago, you'll hear from many community members and small business owners alike tell you that they feel less safe today than they do 4 years ago. Much of it has to do with the fact that we have neighbors that are out struggling on the street, whether they're engaging in open drug use or in certain cases as well, dealing with mental health distress.
Would you agree 35%, though, is a pretty good number? Violent crime down 35%, also progress in property crime, ATVs?
I'm glad that Providence is following the national trend around reducing crime overall, which again started years back under Angel Tavares and thereafter under Jorge Elorza. I think what's important, though, Gene, is how our neighbors actually feel in this moment. Statistics can only tell you so much.
I'll pick it up right there. You know, some business people have complained just a couple of weeks ago with the pop-up parties in the Warehouse District just north of Atwells Avenue. You got an earful. So go ahead. There is a perception, Mayor, that numbers don't tell the whole story.
Oh, and we never are satisfied with data. We are always trying to get to zero. We shouldn't accept any violent crime in our community, and we should always be trying to do better. And new threats like pop-up parties emerge, and we take them incredibly seriously. But one thing I do know is that if we had a mayor who advocated for defunding the police, we would not be seeing the progress that we've seen. And I'm confident that business owners on Chalkstone Avenue or anywhere else would be dissatisfied with the mayor that was cutting the police budget. And my opponent has got a very unshaky record on this. He advocated for defunding the police at a rally. When he decided to run for mayor, he now says he doesn't believe that anymore. Then when he was pushed on it, he said, well, I never called for defunding the police. I only said we shouldn't increase the budget. Okay. And then we showed the receipts, 2 tweets and another video where he said, I absolutely am calling for defunding the police. And so there's no reason, there's no wonder that I'm concerned about this, and as are voters across Providence, because the story keeps changing, but the thing that's consistent is disrespect for, distrust in, and repeated calls to undermine our public safety apparatus.
All right, David, let's fact check this here, okay? I have the tweet he's referencing. After 2 days of impairing public demonstrations, advocating for racial justice and the divestment from police, it is now time to direct our voices to our elected officials and demand that they defund police from our city budget. Exclamation point. You didn't qualify that. It's your tweet. It's right here. So go ahead. You called for defund the police before you backed away from it. Is that a fact?
So back in 2020, over 6 years ago, before I was ever an elected official, I wrote those tweets. And I give Brett Smiley's consultants lots of credit for finding them, because I almost forgot that they existed. Here's the reality, Gene. I have been fairly consistent when it comes to my track record around public safety. As a state representative for the last 6 years, I have voted for state budgets year over year that have fully funded public safety. And as our next mayor, I am focused on making sure that all of our neighbors feel safe calling Providence home. And I understand why Brett Smiley is resorting to desperate attacks, clinging on to tweets and quotes from over 5 years ago, because he sees the movement that we have been building. It's one centered around a vision for affordability.
Okay, we've established, you said it, you say I don't feel that way now. Mayor, politicians change their minds all the time. They alter their positions all the time. Is he entitled to do that, or no? You're stuck with it. It's your tweet.
Well, I think the real question that I still don't have an answer for, we've had a half dozen debates at this point, and we've been campaigning for months, is he clearly changed his mind for the purpose of this campaign. He deleted those tweets. He says he doesn't believe that anymore. It's an inconvenient position for someone who wants to be mayor today. But I don't know if that's still what he believes, because he was deeply entrenched in this movement. He advocated for it repeatedly, despite saying that no, he just said we're not going to increase it. He lied as recently as Monday about it. We're recording this on a Friday, 4 days ago. And he's being propped up by a national movement for whom defunding, abolishing the police is a core tenet.
Go ahead, David. You are allowed to jump in. This is a debate, not an interview. Go ahead. He just used the word lie. It's a strong word.
It certainly is, Gene. And again, from someone who is spending over $500,000 in just 4 weeks putting out television ads that darken the color of my skin and it put out attack mailers designed to make our neighbors scared, it is clear that Brett Smiley is concerned about the movement that we have been building, which is why he continues to resort to desperate attacks. Here's the reality. Our neighbors are thankfully able to see through those attacks because they know that as our next mayor, I will not defund the police, a position that I've been very consistent on.
Okay, I know you've denied darkening his skin in an image, but politicians use unflattering images all the time. I've seen the governors raise back, one's black and white, one, could that have been done inadvertently, Mayor Smiley?
His image was not altered. What has altered is his position. And in the answer that he just gave, I actually didn't hear him address the question about why he lied 4 days ago, saying, I actually never advocated for defunding. I just never advocated for increasing the police budget. And then we show the receipts from a tweet that he worked hard to go delete because he knows that that's an inconvenient position now that he's decided that he thinks he wants to be mayor. We need to know what our mayor is going to do to keep this community safe. My track record, I'm proud of. Lowest crime in 35 years. ATVs and motorcycles largely gone. 3 new police academies. The previous mayor who just endorsed him, who will bring us back to that same track record, did 3 police academies in 8 years. I inherited a police department with 100 fewer police officers than we should have. And so I know my track record,
Gene, I think it's important
and I know the people of Providence
so many of our neighbors still feel unsafe.
I'll let you jump right in. Mayor, just finish your
I know
sentence.
my track record. I know the people of Providence are pleased with the progress. I know that they know that I think that public safety is my top priority, and there's real questions about what his priority is.
David, I'll give you the last word, and then we're going to move on to other topics. Go ahead, take it.
I encourage our neighbors to walk down Smith Street, Chalkstone Avenue, Broad Street, and Cranston Street, and see how many of our neighbors are struggling. How they're struggling when it comes to chronic homelessness, when it comes to substance use disorder, and the fact that many of our neighbors that live in the area feel unsafe. So I'll just reiterate once more. Statistics do not tell the whole story. And as I've said before, we are going to take a comprehensive approach to make sure that all of our neighbors feel safe calling Providence home, and I don't have to resort to desperate attacks in order to make sure that our vision is one that our neighbors feel comfortable with.
We're going to get to homelessness, and we'll spend some time on that. First, let's go to another issue that divides you, rent control / rent stabilization. First, Mayor Smiley, you use the term rent control. David, I know you object to that. You say it's rent stabilization. Is there a difference, Mayor Smiley?
I'm not sure what the difference is. There's a bunch of these policies around the country. They're all defined a little bit differently. They're all formulated a little bit differently. What I do know is that rent control doesn't lower anybody's rent. In fact, it guarantees annual rent increases. There are people struggling today. The root cause of that is a shortage of housing, which is why we've focused on building more housing in the city, building more housing per capita than New York or Boston right now. 22%, 1 out of every 5 apartments is permanently affordable, where tenants pay a percentage of their income as opposed to what the landlord wants.
Mayor,
to
could I
charge.
just ask you to narrowly on the issue of rent control / stabilization, because we'll talk about affordable housing. But the proposal that you were against was a 4% annual hike, no more than that. And I can understand someone, it's tight on cash and they're going to be mad at the landlord, and you could see how that would play. Why would that be wrong? For a cap on 4% every year. Why?
For a couple reasons. It's only going to exacerbate the shortage, which is the underlying cause. So St. Paul and Minneapolis, neighboring cities, the Twin Cities, St. Paul passed rent control, Minneapolis didn't. Rents went up higher with rent control in St. Paul than in Minneapolis because of the way it distorted the rental market. It's a failed policy. What I have is a comprehensive, thoughtful, it's not as pithy of a soundbite. It doesn't make good social media videos like my opponent seems to think he's running to be an influencer. But it's a sustainable policy. And it comes with a short-term relief program that my opponent and his allies in the Providence City Council is blocking, which could be helping hundreds of families stave off eviction right now. But for cheap political points, he's going to risk hundreds of families in our cities get evicted before election day because he thinks it's more important that he have a chance to try to win this race.
You're linking a few things together. I have to allow David to respond to all of that. But first, you've all become quite the social media influencers. I see all of you doing your own videos. You're cutting the reporters out, so to speak. All right, let's go to it. Now, listen, landlords have told me my expenses go up a lot more than 4% a year. And I was just on the phone with a landlord. He said sewage tax, electric, water, fees. He went on and on. He says it's impossible to be a landlord in Providence. Everybody thinks we're getting rich. We're not getting rich. And you're going to allow me 4%? He said it doesn't work, David. So go ahead. This is your idea.
Absolutely. Those concerns are valid, Gene. I mean, considering the fact that we have a mayor that has raised property taxes twice in just the last 3 years, I understand why some of our neighbors have concerns around rent stabilization. And that's why it's important for us to know what the actual details of the policy are. There are exemptions in place that would not impact a small property owner with 3 units or less in terms of actual buildings that they own. It's also important to note that there are exemptions in place for new development so we can continue to build new housing. Now again, we have neighbors in this moment today that continue to struggle as rents have gone up by more than 40% since 2020, which could have been prevented if we had rent stabilization. A few months back, when the City Council put forward the rent stabilization proposal, it was clear when you heard the heartfelt testimonies that so many of our neighbors are struggling and need to be able to have the reassurance that their rent's not going to go up 4% a year.
All right.
Instead, what happened is we had a mayor that vetoed rent stabilization as he was finishing up construction of his third home, a mansion out in Tiverton. It's clear that Brett Smiley is out of touch with our neighbors in Providence who are struggling.
You took a personal shot there, a mansion out in Tiverton. What's wrong with being successful and having another house? Barack Obama has plenty. Chicago,
I believe that is an example.
Hawaii, and the islands right over here. So, I mean, is that a personal shot?
I believe that it demonstrates just how disconnected Brett Smiley is, considering he has a home out in New York City, one in Tiverton, and of course, beyond that, does not recognize the urgency as to why we need to have rent caps in place so our neighbors don't get priced out of Providence.
Just narrowly focus on this. The exceptions you gave, there wasn't a landlord I spoke to. He had a multi-unit on Blackstone Avenue. He just sold it. Wants to get out, doesn't want it. He said, my expenses, he just told you, my expenses go up more than 4%. I got out. That's a reality, David.
That is, and that is also why the
That's why there is an argument against rent control. Go ahead.
And the reason why the rent stabilization bill designed by the City Council was so comprehensive is because it included a rent stabilization board that would oversee moments where expenses do exceed 4%, such as property taxes going up by more than 5%, which they did under Brett Smiley last year. That would allow a landlord to be able to petition to the board, be able to demonstrate, my expenses have exceeded 4%, I should be allowed to raise the rent by more than 4% on a given year, given these circumstances, which I believe is fair.
Okay, Mayor, he's right about that property tax, and you know that was going to come back during the election to not bite you, but it's going to become an issue. Go ahead. If you're the mayor, why don't you lower them?
So the representative talks a lot about the urgency of the housing crisis, and yet all of his solutions are nothing more than performative sound bites, because none of these things are actual urgent solutions. He mentions a rent stabilization board. Portland, Maine, which is a smaller community than Providence, took them 5 years to stand this up. 5 years. And so, he's going to tell you in 100 days we're going to pass this and we're going to get it going. It's total fantasy. We have a crisis today. We have a short-term strategy with a rent relief fund that he's holding up. We have an actual sustainable long-term strategy, which is working because of the 2,000 new housing units, 1 out of every 5, which is affordable, which has been built just in the last 3.5 years. That's the actual way to solve this problem, not with empty promises and pithy sound bites. And so the other thing that he doesn't mention, and you talk about property taxes, is this will cause city tax revenues to go down, that the city will have to go get somewhere. So if you're a homeowner, if you're a residential property taxpayer in Providence, your taxes will go up under Representative Morales' proposal.
Before I go back for a rebuttal, he took a shot at you're building a new house at Tiverton waterfront. Go ahead.
Listen.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
My husband has had a successful career that he's worked his tail off. His first job was as a bank teller, and he has a lifelong Rhode Islander. And as he's getting close to 65, he reached the Rhode Island dream, which is to have a summer house. And there's nothing more to say about it.
Okay.
The fact is, I wake up every day thinking about how to do better by the people of Providence to help them today, not take cheap political shots, but actual real solutions today to the challenges that they're facing.
David, he has accused you of having allies who are blocking his cash assistance program. Are you doing that? Are you on the phone telling the members of the council friendly to you, don't pass that because I want to let Smiley squirm a little bit? Are you
Absolutely
doing that?
not. No, instead what the city council is doing, Gene, is taking the responsible role of making sure that there is actual mechanisms in place so when rent relief is passed, that it actually supports the tenant in a way where they won't find themselves in a position where they're going to get evicted just a month after a landlord receives what could be up to $3,000 worth of a check coming directly from the city. What this is about is having safeguards in place, and that is why Councilman Miguel Sanchez, alongside other co-sponsors around this legislation, are centered around building out an ordinance, because what was passed was essentially just including the budget. There was no ordinance language to actually accompany it. And I understand that it makes for great sound bites from the mayor saying, oh, well, they're holding this up. Reality is, if Brett Smiley cared about taking care of our neighbors in Providence, then he wouldn't have vetoed rent stabilization. But when you take over $500,000 from corporate real estate interests, I don't blame you for listening to your donors over the needs of neighbors in Providence who need help.
Okay, your husband is a realtor. He says you take a lot of money from the corporate real estate interests. Is this true? Fact check it. Is it true?
Every dollar I raise gets disclosed. My husband is a realtor. He is not a developer. He's not a landlord, other than the 3-family that we live in. The detailed nonsense that you just heard about the rent fund, we've done these programs before. The whole state's done these programs before. In fact, Representative Morales called on Governor McKee back in January to pass a statewide version of this. But now, because it's against me, suddenly he's changed his position. We went through a public, transparent process. 14 out of 15 council people sponsored it, and then the 15th person voted for it. It went through a public procurement, and then we signed a contract with the Community Action Partnership of Providence, CAP, a trusted community partner. It is explicit in that contract, which is public, which he knows, because we've been talking about this for months, that landlords and tenants sit down together with CAP before they get the cash assistance. So this is just, fear-mongering politics. And people are going to get hurt along the way.
I'm going to give you, David, the last word on this particular topic. But just before I do that, the mayor says rent control. You use the word rent relief. Stabilization you prefer. So why don't you just give us a quick 20-second reason why you like stabilization, and then you can get the last word and rebut the mayor.
Absolutely. So there are legal differences between using the terms rent stabilization and rent control. Rent stabilization just means that there's an annual cap in terms of how much your rent can go up on a given year. Rent control would be just a flat rate in terms of how high the rent could be in general. So I believe it's always important to make those distinctions. I understand that the mayor likes to mischaracterize rent stabilization in order to instill fear. And that's been the theme of his campaign over the last several months, instilling fear in our neighbors and telling them about how scared you should be, as opposed to actually embracing a vision centered around affordability, which is what our campaign has been based on. So I'm proud of the broad coalition that we have built, and I understand that Brett Smiley is on his way to becoming the first mayor in 44 years to lose. And that scares him, which is why he's taking it out on our neighbors and causing panic and fear in ways that thankfully are not resonating.
Mayor, you'll have a chance to rebut, but just before, we're going to another topic now, homelessness. We've gone from housing to homelessness. The other day, I think you saw the video, you both saw the video, a constituent videotaped homeless people in the bus shelter. They took up all the space in the bus shelter such that the commuters were outside. The lady is outside instead of under the bus shelter. If that comes to your attention, will you send a police officer to move them out?
We will send a police officer alongside case managers that will be readily available to make sure that our neighbors get the support that they need. What we saw, Gene, in terms of unhoused community members sleeping under a bus shelter wasn't just a one-time incident. That happens regularly on Broad Street. That happens regularly on Cranston Street, and it hurts. And to know that there's a lack of urgency to address that is why the issue continues to grow. We have a crisis around homelessness all across the city of Providence, not just in one specific neighborhood. So my approach is centered around being a lot more proactive. The mayor likes to talk about partnerships that they have in place, but quite frankly, they're limited. Having 3 clinicians from the Providence Center when there is a mass-blown crisis of neighbors struggling is not sufficient.
Okay, but this often comes up. Look, you're not compassionate. You're right. They're under. But I just want to get this straight. That comes to your attention, you'll say, I'm sorry, you can't stay at the bus shelter. I'm going to move you out with the police. Is that a yes?
Oh, we're going to make sure that any unhoused community member that is otherwise, again, in a position where they're sleeping under a bus shelter, they will be provided with an actual alternative that's rooted in dignity. We're going to work towards having more daytime shelters.
So that means action, moving them
Absolutely,
out. You can't stay here. Mayor? You saw the video the other day. Now, I didn't expect you to say, well, I'm going to send the cops. It was a moment in time.
Yeah.
But if it comes to your attention again, Mayor, are you going to send the cops to move them out and either take them to a shelter or take them somewhere else? You can't take up the lady's spot in the Bell Shelter.
Yeah, it would depend on the circumstances. These are difficult decisions. It's really easy to sort of shoot arrows from the sidelines when you're not actually in the leadership position, because these are hard decisions. We spend more as the city on shelter beds and social workers than any other community in Rhode Island, by far. And we're proud to do so. This is a compassionate community, and these are our neighbors. We offer assistance, we offer available shelter beds, and we always try to find that balance of respecting someone's dignity and their rights. You have a right to be on the sidewalk. You have a right to be sitting in a bus shelter, even if you're not catching the bus. And so it depends on the circumstances.
You saw the video. You don't have a right to take up the bus shelter with your belongings to such that nobody can use it for legitimate reasons.
I disagree with you.
You disagree with that?
I do.
Fine. You're not running against me. That's fine.
That's right.
You're allowed to do that.
It depends on the circumstances. The other context from that video was that that's a bus stop very close to a couple high schools.
Yeah.
And so we do have a slightly different approach when school is in session than when school is not. Because in the dead of summer, a day like today, it's 95 degrees outside, people need shelter. And these are human beings that deserve a little bit of dignity. However, if it's the school year, at school arrival and dismissal time, we don't let people linger in the shelters because we need students to feel safe getting on the bus and off the bus. It requires discretion, it requires compassion, and that's the sort of team that I've built, and it's not as black and white as you and other people may wish it were.
You've made that point to me on the radio as well. You just said you would move the police, and I'm going to I get another minute on this because believe it or not, we're flying by here, and I want to talk about the schools briefly. David Morales, the mayor has cleaned up encampments. He has moved them. Now, I've been critical of the pace at which he moves, but he has moved them. Will you move the encampments? Will you clean them out and move them?
So it is correct, Gene. Brett Smiley has broken the homeless Bill of Rights at the state level that is allowed for encampments to be cleared well before they actually should be on a legal basis.
My question was, would you move them? Will you move homeless encampments out?
We are going to make sure that we actually obey the Homeless Bill of Rights, provide a timely notice to our unhoused community members that will have to move in order to make sure that we're able to provide them with a layer of dignity, such as access to a daytime shelter where they're going to feel safe, as opposed to what Brett Smiley has done, which has been documented by Steve Alquist, who has demonstrated consistently that he has broken the Homeless Bill of Rights, has violated and seized the property of neighbors, and ultimately an unhoused person has found themselves in a position worse off than they were before. So that's unacceptable.
Let me just understand this. When it comes to your attention, you will put a process in place, but you will move them.
That would be correct, Gene. So we will work with case managers. We will make sure that our unhoused neighbors actually feel like they're a part of the process when we talk about what the options are, as opposed to just sending police over, seizing their property, and violating their rights, which has happened under Brett Smiley multiple times. Our unhoused neighbors deserve better. They deserve real compassion.
I'll let the mayor defend them. Mayor, look, we had two at the Da Vinci Center. It took a long time before you started taking action, and then you did take action with a process, and it was a timetable, but the criticism is, listen, it's not that big a city. You got them by the hospital. You had them by Royal Little Drive. You had them behind the Da Vinci Center. You're not moving fast enough. Go ahead and answer his attack on you, and then we're going to move to schools, and then we have closing statements. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, his attack is based upon the accounting of someone who's endorsing him. So the reality is we have a thoughtful, informed approach that we have modified actually at the request of advocates to try to find that right balance. We give 30 days notice. We offer to store people's belongings. During those 30 days, we send social workers by to try to help people's other needs, medical, mental health, et cetera. We then give a final 48-hour notice to vacate, and then people have to move on. And then we go clean the site. And it takes longer than some neighbors want, and it's faster than some advocates want. But this job is about doing what's right for the most people and to try to do it in a middle-of-the-road approach.
We have, believe it or not, we have only 1 minute till closing. Quickly on schools. Mayor, you said 7 in 10 students can't read or do math at grade level. Just talk about this very narrowly. What was the failure that led to the takeover. What was the failure that led to the takeover?
There was no one failure. There was a variety of failures. We were not meeting the needs of our multilingual educators. We were not providing adequate wraparound support such as social workers and teachers' aides and other assistants and other professionals in the school buildings. We did not have modern facilities.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm running out of time.
Sadly, there's no one answer to that question.
David, just 20 seconds. What was the failure that led to the takeover?
So many of our students not receiving the services that they need, both academically, social and emotionally, and it led to multilingual learners and special education students in particular being left behind.
All right, we will continue this conversation at some point and talk about the changes that might be ahead. The schools are going back. It is time for closing statements. This flew by. By order of the draw, Mayor Smiley, you will deliver your closing statement now, and David Morales, you will have the last one. Go ahead, Mayor, look right at the camera, and it's your time.
So, Providence voters, we have a very clear choice for us this election. We can either continue to make the changes that are moving our cities forward, or we can go backwards. Over the last 4 years, I am extraordinarily proud of our track record. The lowest violent crime since 1990. ATVs and motorcycles largely gone from our community. Standing up to the Trump administration, especially by protecting our immigrant neighbors from the lawlessness of ICE, but suing the Trump administration now 11 times over the last year and a half. We have built new homes and new schools in every neighborhood. There's big work ahead. This job requires someone with a track record of success, not just with slogans, social media videos, and empty promises. Most importantly, we are taking back the Providence Public Schools, a $500 million budget, 2,000 employees, and 20,000 kids who deserve better. So I'm asking for your vote on September 9th. Please, early vote starts on August 20th.
Mayor, thank you. David Morales, address the camera. Your time. 1 minute closer.
Neighbors, thank you all so much for taking the time to tune in. Now, my opponent says that this election is about whether or not our city moves forward. So please take a moment to think. Are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? I'm running for mayor because I believe government can do so much more to make our lives easier. And that's why I'm proud to be the only candidate in this race that supports capping rent hikes so you can continue to call Providence home. I'll work with our teachers and our families so we're improving the quality of Providence public schools for all of our children. And I'll appoint qualified department heads to make sure that you're receiving the excellent city services that you deserve, especially during a snowstorm. Now, neighbors, we don't ask for much here in our city. We just want to be able to afford a life that we can love right here in Providence. And so I invite you to join our broad and growing coalition between tenants and homeowners and Democrats of all backgrounds. We're building a movement to have a Providence for all.
State Representative David Morales, thank you. Incumbent Mayor Brett Smiley, thanks to both of you.
Thanks,
and may the best man in the voters' eyes win. We didn't touch everything, but I think we got a good taste of what separates both of you. In the meantime, thank you for joining us for this special edition of 10 News Conference, our Democratic primary debate with the candidates for mayor of Providence. The primary is coming up. It's your time to make a decision. Remember, the primary is Wednesday, September 9th, and early voting begins Thursday, August 20th. Tune in for our gubernatorial debate this coming Wednesday. That should be just as vigorous. In the meantime, thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.